Namaskar and welcome. In today's analysis, we will look at a situation that's been, well, rapidly unfolding and really capturing national attention. We're talking about the recent surge of political violence in West Bengal. But actually, we're going to focus specifically on the immediate, massive, and highly coordinated police response to it. Whenever there's a major shift in political dynamics, the ripple effects hit the ground hard, sometimes incredibly severely. So what exactly happens when the administration decides to just crack down with overwhelming force? How does the state regain its grip when political clashes threaten to completely destabilize public order? Well, today we're going to break down the official numbers, the exact strategies the administration is using on the ground, and the competing political narratives surrounding this intense crackdown. Let's get right into the facts.
Okay, let's dive into this by looking at the sheer scale of the immediate police reaction. More than 500 arrests. Now, we aren't talking about some week-long operation or a massive month-long sweep. No, these 500-plus arrests were made in a span of just 48 hours. Think about the logistics involved in that kind of mobilization for a second. It requires this incredibly rapid deployment of resources across multiple districts simultaneously. This huge number tells us right away that the state administration is absolutely not treating this as just, isolated minor skirmishes. They've essentially cast a massive dragnet across the entire state to immediately pull anyone accused of vandalism and violence right off the streets. It is a highly aggressive opening move to reestablish law and order.
And this brilliantly illustrates the second layer of the police strategy. Beyond formal charges, over 1,100 people have been taken into preventive custody. Now, making arrests after a crime has been committed, well, that's standard police work. But preventive detention, that is all about looking forward. The police are actively identifying individuals who have the potential to instigate further violence, rally mobs, or just escalate the tension, and they're detaining them before they can even act. By removing over 1,000 potential agitators from the equation in literally just 2 days, the administration is trying to completely cut off the oxygen to any new violent incidents. It's a huge logistical undertaking, but the core strategy here is focused heavily on immediate, powerful deterrence.
But to really wrap our heads around why over 1,600 people total have been swept up by authorities in just 48 hours, we need to properly contextualize the environment on the ground. Following the recent change in power dynamics, several areas across West Bengal have basically become flashpoints. The state's been witnessing continuous reports of political clashes between rival party supporters. We're seeing widespread vandalism, serious damage to both public and private property, and just this thick, heavy layer of tension blanketing several neighborhoods. It is this specific volatility, the very real threat of these localized clashes snowballing into wider statewide unrest, that triggered this heavy-handed police response. The state machinery was forced to act decisively to prevent a total breakdown of neighborhood security.
Now, what's really interesting about this breakdown is when we look at the official figures confirmed by the Director General of Police, Siddhanath Gupta. A very distinct dual-track approach emerges here. First, we have 433 formal, documented arrests. To back those arrests up, the police have already registered over 200 First Information Reports, or FIRs. And then, of course, there's that massive figure we just touched on, over 1,100 preventative detentions. So this breakdown is essentially a snapshot of a government desperately trying to regain full control. It shows the administration building solid legal cases against those who have already caused destruction through those 200-plus FIRs, while simultaneously using preventive laws to just freeze the situation on the ground. Like I said, it's a massive administrative undertaking.
So you might be wondering, how exactly are the police achieving these massive numbers on the ground? Well, they're employing a very specific three-step methodology. Step 1 involves continuous, rolling raids and intense field surveillance. Officers have been given strict orders to stay out on the streets, constantly keeping eyes on the situation. Step 2 is all about spatial dominance. Extra security forces have been strategically deployed specifically to areas identified as highly sensitive, acting as a physical, visible barrier to stop further clashes. And Step 3, that's where modern policing really steps in. They aren't just relying on eyewitness accounts anymore. They are actively combing through hours of CCTV footage and viral video clips to pinpoint arsonists and vandals. You might run away from a riot, but if you're caught on camera, that digital footprint is allowing the police to track you right back to your front door.
This brings us to the core directive that's guiding every officer out there on the street. The administration has issued a very public, very rigid stance, stating clearly, those taking the law into their own hands will not be spared under any circumstances. Now, this is a strict zero-tolerance mandate. Firm instructions have been passed down the chain of command to every single field officer that the protection of public property is absolutely paramount. And honestly, the goal of broadcasting this statement isn't just to keep the public informed. It acts as a psychological tool aimed directly at the rioters. It sends a very clear message: your political affiliation is not going to serve as a shield against prosecution for arson and vandalism.
So the crucial point is understanding how these exact same facts are being interpreted politically. The opposition points straight to the violence and argues that the law and order situation in Bengal is continuously deteriorating, essentially framing the unrest as a complete and total failure of the state. Conversely, the state government points to the massive police crackdown we've been discussing as solid proof that the situation is being tightly monitored, insisting that rioters are being strictly and swiftly suppressed. Now, in our explainer today, we aren't here to take sides or endorse either viewpoint. But it's absolutely vital to see how both sides are using this crackdown and the surrounding events to validate their respective political arguments.
Let's pull back for a second and look at the actual ground reality right now, today. Based on the latest reports, this heavy police deployment is definitely having an effect. The situation is actively normalizing in several previously volatile areas. However, an underlying tension absolutely still remains. It's what you'd call a very fragile calm. Because of this, the administration is actively broadcasting appeals for peace while simultaneously issuing strict warnings against the spreading of rumors. And as we all know, rumors can spread like wildfire and easily reignite violence in the age of social media. Finally, don't expect the police to just pack up and head home quite yet. This special high-intensity police campaign is highly likely to continue until the administration feels the threat of organized violence has entirely dissipated.
Which brings us to our final thought. Will this rapid, massive police action actually restore lasting peace in Bengal? We've seen over 1,600 people detained or arrested in this huge show of state force. This 48-hour crackdown has undoubtedly suppressed the immediate violence and cleared the streets of rioters. But does this kind of heavy policing truly resolve the deep-seated political rivalries that sparked the clashes in the first place? Is this a permanent solution or just a temporary pause in a much, much longer political conflict? That is the critical question we need to ponder as we watch this situation continue to develop. Thank you so much for joining me for today's explainer. I really hope this structured breakdown has helped you grasp the incredible complexities of the situation on the ground. Keep asking questions and keep learning.